Hello and welcome back to Book Nerd TV. Today is tag day. I was tagged by Shannon at Bat. You really must go to Shannon's channel and watch her version of the 80s tag because she's serving you an 80s look that's really on point. So go to her channel, watch her version of the video because I think you'll be highly entertained. She nails the look for sure. As you can see, me, not so much. I lived through it. I don't have to repeat it. So the tag was created by Laura at the Book Bubbler and by Danny at Spinelli Speaks. So here we go, 80s music book tag. The first prompt is Cyndi Lauper's True Colors. Name a book that represents the true you. Well, for me, the title specifically that represents the true me would be Misadventures of an Awkward Black Girl by Issa Rae. I think I've done this before and I am probably still pronouncing it wrong. I'm going to go with Issa Rae. And I loved her YouTube channel. I love the videos that she put up before she got her big HBO break. I say all of that to say that I've read about a third of the way into this book. Haven't finished it quite yet. And I totally relate to a lot of the things that she goes through, but definitely this title, The Misadventures of an Awkward Black Girl, chef's kiss. Prompt number 2, REO Speedwagon, Keep On Lovin You. What is your favorite book from the 1980s? My favorite book genre from the 1980s is fantasy. Was fantasy? You know what I mean. Of the many fantasy books that I read, this particular series, and it's by David Eddings, and I guess nowadays we might say David and Lee Eddings, and the series was The Malloreon, Malloreon. Don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, so I thought I'd spell it for you. And the books in the Malloreon series were Guardians of the West, King of the Murgos, and Demon Lord of Karanda. Karanda? Whichever. So that's the whole Malloreon trilogy. Those 3 books. And I really enjoyed those books. They really captivated me, set my imagination on fire. That was for me peak fantasy reading time. You know, there were just so many, at that time there just seemed to be so much that was available. It was not diverse. That is a given. It's the 80s, so don't come at me because we already know what it is. Wasn't very diverse, but at least I was able to find a great deal of material to read. Of course, the sameness of the material is what led to the great fantasy blight in the 1990s, but that's a whole other story. Prompt number 3, Aretha Franklin, George Michael, I Knew You Were Waiting. Name a book published in the 1980s that you still want to read. Beloved by Toni Morrison is a book I still want to read. Don't book shame me because I hadn't read the book yet. As you know, Toni Morrison is a literary genius, so I don't feel that you go into reading her books lightly, especially not Beloved. So my intention is to read it. I just don't know when. Of course, I'll talk about it here because that's what I do. And it's a backlist book, so you know you're more than likely to hear me at least express something about it on the channel. Prompt number 4 is Whitesnake, Here I Go Again. Name a book, a series, or a new release that you're highly anticipating reading. Well, for me, that's 2 of them. One's already been released. Maybe both of them have been released at this point. But my first is The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin. Duh. And also a duh, Network Effect by Martha Wells. I've got the N.K. Jemisin City We Became book. And I'm anticipating reading it probably sometime in the fall. Maybe more news on that later. And there's Network Effect that I don't have yet, but I am going to procure. But before I can read Network Effect, I've got to get the rest of the Murderbot novellas, so I'm going to enjoy procuring those. I've read All Systems Red twice within the last 6 months. I mean, it's a novella, so easy peasy. And I enjoyed it just as much the second time as I did the first time. So I think those books, because they're novellas as well, are going to be eminently rereadable for me. So I'm looking forward to the rest of the novellas and, of course, the new novel-length book, which is Network Effect. Prompt number 5, Dead or Alive, You Spin Me Round. Name a book that you would like to reread. For me, there are two that I can think of just kind of right off the top of my head. The first one is Long Division by Kiese Layman. Ooh-wee, that's going to be a reread for you. And Team of Rivals by Doris Kearns Goodwin. And it's really funny because Long Division, very skinny book, but a very deep, dense read, for me at least. And Team of Rivals is a thicker book, but the reading is, for me, the reading was just so easy and so page turning. Team of Rivals is the bar that I use to evaluate all other nonfiction books. As she just tour de force. I love that book so much. Prompt number 6, Michael Jackson, Billie Jean. Name a book that was recommended to you that you really didn't like. This book was not, can't remember if someone verbally recommended Infinite Jest to me, but there was some kind of way that I sort of picked up. Maybe it was clearly in the zeitgeist of this book was supposed to be so great. I read maybe 3 or 4 chapters into this book. Luckily, it was a library book because I didn't pay money for it. Unfortunately, it was a library book, so I couldn't throw it in the trash. That's all I have to say about that. Prompt number 7, Van Halen, Jump. Name a book that surprised or scared you. A book that surprised me is Blanche on the Lamb by Barbara Neely. Rest in peace, Miss Neely. She passed earlier this year. I don't know what I expected when I read Blanche on the Lamb. What I didn't expect was this sort of, it's not quite a cozy mystery, not quite, or not what you would traditionally think of as a cozy mystery. But for me, the Blanche series by Mrs. Neely definitely can be located in the cozy mystery genre because it's not hard-boiled detective fiction. It's not police procedural. It's just this person. In most cases, it's a woman. So in this case, of course, a woman who has all of these outside issues pressing and oppressing her, but also runs into these tiny little, maybe not tiny, but she runs into these mysteries that she manages to solve or resolve within the larger issues of her life that she's trying to escape from or resolve for herself. If I'm not mistaken, there are at least 4 books in the Blanche series. Again, I've read Blanche on the Lamb. I may have read Blanche on the Lamb twice by mistake because I couldn't remember which Blanche book that I read. But anyway, I think I have 3 of the 4, but I think I'm missing number 2, which is why I haven't continued in the series. That's another series that I will comment on here on the channel so that I can sort of make you aware of Miss Neely and her work. Prompt number 8, Heart, What About Love? What do you love about BookTube? Clearly for me, the people who are a part of the BookTube community, that is the thing that I find to be just the best thing, the thing that I like most about BookTube. What I find very inspiring here on BookTube and what I think is helping me broaden the scope of my reading are people like Cyndi at Artisan Geek, who along with being just very creative with her channel. I really enjoy her channel, and if you have never watched a video from Cyndi, you need to go to her channel. It's Artisan Geek. She's doing author interviews. She does these clever little skits now. She's just so she's a very young lady, but she's also just, you can just see the brilliance, and she has a lovely, lovely voice. So I've gushed enough about her. I just think she's awesome. Another person that I think is awesome is a lady who tagged me in this 80s book tag, and that's Shannon At Bat So. Again, this is someone who is very deliberately diversifying what she reads. Watching her channel, I've learned so much about these other communities that I am not a part of, but I can learn something from, I can include in my reading. She deliberately reads such diverse authors, from indigenous authors, Asian authors, Middle Eastern authors, disabled authors, so many different women authors, of course, just so many different authors that she is deliberately working to include in her reading. And so that has inspired me to work harder, to do better in including these communities that I may not necessarily gravitate to, or even just books that I may not necessarily gravitate to. I'm going to be as deliberate as Shannon is in including, expanding who I include in my reading repertoire. And I want to do this because I think it's important for me to grow as a person, to learn of the experience of other people. Another person I think I've mentioned on the channel is Jerry at Onyx Pages. Just go check out her. Just go check out her page. Just go check out her channel, I should say. She is opened my eyes to a lot of the speculative fiction that is out there. And even for African descended writers, right? She has broadened my scope in that direction as well. She's also broadened my scope with regard to, I mean, not just her, of course, but she's definitely broadened my scope with regard to the LGBTQIA plus and non-binary peoples as well. Just remembering to include their voices in what I read, what I consume. And lastly, there's Brian at Bookish. He is another person who's working deliberately to expand his reading repertoire, so that it's not just those books regarded in America as the classics and the required reading. He's trying to expand that out for himself. Again, I understand, to expand your awareness about other experiences in the world and in this country, because, you know, one book or series of books or canon of people are not capable of expressing or telling the story of all of the peoples in this country or in the world. So, and that's another thing that I'm working on as well, is including authors that are not from the United States or Canada or Europe, you know, those sort of traditional places. And I've already included some, but definitely trying to include more authors from the various countries in Africa, the Caribbean. I'm trying to increase the number of books from those authors, South American as well. I'm trying to increase my reading, my repertoire of those authors as well. Short of knowing people from these cultures and from these communities, if I don't know someone personally, directly, another way to learn of those cultures and communities is to read. I just find it very important for me personally to learn more, to become aware of more, because I'm curious about the world, and I'm curious about people, and I like to learn. I like to know more. That's all I have for today, book nerds. Thank you so much for stopping by. For those of you who have subscribed, thank you so much for subscribing. Thank you so much for coming back and watching the channel. For those of you for whom this may be the first time you've ever seen my channel, I hope you've enjoyed this tag. I hope you go back and check out some of the older videos as well. Welcome. And if you like what you're seeing, go ahead and subscribe. Again, thank you so much, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.